Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Your child has so much potential, but your local schools may not be right for them. Check out K-12. K-12 powered schools are accredited tuition-free online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. This is not your typical homeschooling. With state-certified teachers specially trained to teach online, your child will learn at their speed, at home, with innovative, engaging technology. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
Hashtag no music, no intro. We are back. Saints Block Party Podcast here coming at you. Adam Wolf, and we have the esteemed, if you live in the New Orleans, Louisiana area, you don't need to be introduced to our next guest, but WWL's own Mike Detillier, Mike D, joining SBP. Honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Last couple of months, you have extended the pleasure for me to come on, do a couple of spots on WWL. So that's been tremendous. So thanks for coming on and just talking about this glorious mess and our lovable team that is the New Orleans. Like, we love our team, and they're messy, and that's partly their appeal of why we love them. But thanks, truly, thank you so much for coming on. Like, this is a
pleasure.
I
like to see the new guys in the business, and every time I look, there's the new guys in the business because I'm an old guy in the business. So it's one of those deals. So, man, I enjoy what you guys do, and keep up the good work, because it is part of what I've learned throughout the years. And I don't care if it's football, if it's business. I was an engineer for 28 and a half years, serve on boards, this sort of thing. It's a people business. And y'all serve that today in a new outlet of the world. Right. I didn't grow up with this, what y'all doing. Come on, I'm old. So I didn't grow up with this, but what y'all able to present to certain people that go on to the podcast and listen in on all this, y'all do a fantastic job. So I just want to let both of y'all know that.
No, I appreciate you, Mike. And look, I'm a little bit older than Adam, and I grew up in Louisiana, in New Orleans. So, the Mike Detillier draft guides, listening to y'all after work, get off of work, got a first thing, let's see what Mike D talking about, see what Mike D think. So it's just an honor to have you on here, somebody that, been listening to, just as long as I can remember, valuing your information. Like, one of the first people I remember really getting me interested in the NFL draft, because you had the deep knowledge of all these guys. I was like, man, how does he know about this safety from, who knows what university out in Indiana? He knows his backstory. He knows what coach coached him in high school. Like, how do you even gather all that information? That
drive Bobby crazy. Because you see, I do a show with no script other than a live read. And he was like, man, come on. I got 13 concussions. I can't remember what I did for lunch. You asking me? I can't remember stuff like you. I was like, okay, one day I might lose that. Or will lose that. But for now, I'm good. And I'm good if I see it and then I can remember it. And then I'll move on with it. But that drive Bobby J nuts, man. He was like, I got to write that down. And he cut little pieces out of a newspaper, and he got that yellow marker and that pink marker and all green marker. He marked everything up. I can't remember that. I was like, okay, who knows that? We doing radio. Ain't nobody in here but you and I. Nobody's going to see if you reading off of a newspaper or not. It's all good.
Look, man, it's amazing. It's amazing what you've been able to build over there at WWL,
truly,
with your draft guide, and all that stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's dive in to this team, the Saints. The chat is saying that it sounds echoey on Mike's side. It doesn't sound echoey at all to either of us. But if it is, what we might do is we'll fix it in post and then just re-upload it. Yeah, it doesn't sound echoey to us at all. But we might just re-upload it like we did with the Mina episode. With the new the Derek Carr retirement that happened last Saturday. One, I just want to get your thoughts of, one, did you see it coming? And then early this morning, there was a news story that dropped. Catherine Terrell and Jeremy Fowler of ESPN dropped all the intricacies, that everything that took place. And it was a very lengthy, great deep dive of what happened. Just your thoughts overall on the Derek Carr saga in New Orleans.
It surprised me he retired. Did not surprise me. Adam, you and I have talked about this. Didn't surprise me he wouldn't be here. No, really, I thought, my partner, he would have been ain't no way I'm leaving $30 million on the table. I'm having the surgery and, hey, whatever happens afterwards, it happens. So, man, I've done this 40 years. This is a stranger story as I've ever seen of how from the end of the season until Saturday, his retirement, how it ended, how the kind of weather balloon went off for me with it was his immediacy to move his family out of New Orleans and move it on the West Coast. That told me, okay, one thing. So we have the Super Bowl here in New Orleans. And, okay, you're supposed to be part of the face of the franchise because up until February, 11th, they didn't have a head coach. He was nowhere to be found. Nowhere here.
Nowhere. My
thing is, wait a minute. I've had other people tell me, that's just minor. Minor? What? Go show up for the biggest event in your own city and you working at a company and you see how long you employed.
Come on,
be out of there. Out.
Preach.
In any other business.
Come on.
I don't get it. Then we got the rumors that they had never met personally. Okay, so I said it on WWL. I knew who I'd gotten it from. I thought was a really good source, but others said that wasn't accurate at the time. Okay, and then Saturday, Kellen Moore confirmed you guys had it. We said it. That they had never really met one-on-one. Okay, so you mean to tell me your starting quarterback and your head coach have never met, and yet you gonna make this work? Come on
now.
That as much as people dislike Dennis Allen, how we knew this before anybody, Dennis gets the job and he gets on a plane from New Orleans to California to go meet Michael Thomas. Because he wants to kind of straighten certain things out with Michael and just try to make this work. Because I think Coach Allen felt, and I agree with him, you're a better team with Michael Thomas on it back then than you were when he's not there. You were a better team. So I'm going to try to straighten it out. Well, who's on the plane with Coach Allen? Bobby Hebert's daughter, who lives in California. She was flying back home. And so, she tells the story. I kept looking, man, that guy looks like Dennis Allen. So when they got off the plane, Coach Allen said, I noticed, lady walked to me and she was like, are you Dennis Allen? And he was like, yes, I am. Oh, I'm Bobby Hebert's daughter. Oh, so she took a selfie, sent it to Bobby. So we had it the Monday, that he was off to California to meet Michael Thomas to visit. If Dennis Allen thought that Michael Thomas was enough for his team that I would get on a plane and go to California, why wouldn't Kellen Moore or why wouldn't Derek Carr come to New Orleans to meet Kellen? None of that added up to me. I think he wanted out. I think he wanted out some kind of way. He didn't want to be the bridge quarterback to the next quarterback. I wanted out. And whatever the circumstances is, health-wise, how it happened, when it happened, there's still a chapter left to be written in this book. Exactly how it went down.
Yep.
But the trump card that went down when they picked Tyler Shuck.
Yep.
That, to me, when they picked him, I said it then. That's the guy that's going to be the starting quarterback in September. It won't be Derek Carr. It will not be Derek Carr. So to answer your question, the retirement was surprising to me. Him not being here really wasn't a big surprise, to be honest. It didn't seem to fit. And if you in the people business, as you and I, we all talked about it off the air.
Yep.
If you in the people business, wouldn't the first thing you do with your starting quarterback will say, hey, I don't care if we meet in New Orleans, if we meet in Houston, we meet in Las Vegas, we meet in California.
We got to fix this.
Hey, let us meet and talk and see what issues you have. You tell us your story, we'll tell you ours, and we work it out. Didn't happen. That told you everything you needed to know about this relationship. And for the Saints, really couldn't have ended any better. Because, now you don't have those dark clouds hanging over a quarterback who really doesn't want to be here. You got some salary cap relief this year. I think you'll use some of that money because you need to acquire new pieces. Okay, this isn't. Teams don't like to say it. All these years they hate. It's the most dreaded word in sports. Rebuild.
Rebuild. There it is. I knew what you were gonna say.
Man, it's all the same crapola to me. It's all the same. It's reload. This football team is in the early stages of rebuilding. Bottom line. Now, Saints fans, they don't want to hear that, but listen, I'm gonna be honest with them.
I think they do though, Mike. I think they do. I think a lot of Saints fans are. That's the one thing I would push back on you is I think so many of us are 100% okay with rebuilding.
Adam, they might be good with the rebuild now. We're coming September and October when they play them games. What the hell happened? Come on. Well, why are we not better? So we got a middle ground. We got a middle ground there.
I'll meet you there.
Because I guarantee you the same people I'm ready to blow this up, start all over. Come October, man, what happened? How come we not winning games? It's the same cats over and over and over again. Last year, Deuce and I, we laugh about this all the time because in August, I brought up, I thought the keys for this team to have any chance to have a winning record, any shot at it, would be one, they had to develop some of the young talent that they had on the team, which had been in the witness protection agency. If it's Isaiah Foskey, if it's Saul DeVere, all these guys, and they still in the witness protection agency for me.
Yep.
They still haven't done anything. And secondly, I thought their lack of depth along the offensive line, wide receiver, running back was paper thin. And maybe it's the pessimist in me. I always think about the worst case scenario, and I want at least to build me a little bit of a sandbag to make sure that I know it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's when. I think they felt, hey, we good. A lot of the fans, I agree. Then after the first two games, it was, man, y'all nothing but Debbie Downers. Always complaining. Then after the fifth game, man, Mickey Loomis and Dennis Allen don't know what they're doing. Where's the depth on this team? So, it's the same people. The same ones throwing it out. It's amazing that happens. And I worry about Kellen Moore in year one because for the same people that say, let's tank this year, my thing is tank at your job and see how your bosses feel. And it's on your resume, on yours. Kellen's deal is, wait a minute, y'all didn't bring me in here to tank nothing. I want to win and win as much as I can. Doesn't mean I'm going to have a winning record. And I think before schedule came out and after the schedule came out, I still think this team's a 5-win team. They're a 5-12 football team. Yep. They're going to be in that range. 4 wins, 6 wins, but I got it at 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to jump down the rabbit hole that I jumped down last year. The same thing. And are you satisfied with the depth you see at wide receiver on this team today? Or are you satisfied?
Hell no.
Absolutely not.
Okay. You can say, well, Kendra Miller, he got a new start now with a new head coach. I don't think it's the head coach that didn't get himself in proper shape. Where you go down the first practice. I'm not talking about no game. I'm talking about practice. He went down.
Training was it training camp? It was training camp, right?
Camp.
First training camp.
Oh, my hamstring. So
if you look at that injury, that is a indication of someone who is not taking their job as a professional NFL player seriously. Like
Deuce McAllister said the exact same thing you said. He told me that. He said, Mike, he's not taking this opportunity in the NFL seriously. Then Saldiveri goes down with an injury. Okay, so it's bang, bang. Okay, 2 of the guys we brought up about developing, they're watching. They're not playing. And so, my biggest fear for Kellen Moore in year 1 is, at the present, and I do hope they do add another offensive lineman, another receiver, another running back, and a veteran quarterback. I got a lot of pushback on the veteran quarterback thing is, let the young play. What? My thing is, man,
there's no experience in that quarterback room. None.
So we had Drew Brees on, and Drew was like, Mike, you got to be kidding me. People are actually saying that? I was like, Drew, not just one. I'm talking about that text line all the way down sometimes, 4 or 5 in a row. I'm like, okay, if you start a new job, and you got nothing but young people around you that have never done it, what's fixing to happen? A kaboom. It ain't going to be good. It's not going to be good. Drew talked about what Doug Flutie did for him with the Chargers. And I'd heard him tell the story before. I was benched 3 times. Okay, he's going to be a first ballot Pro Football Hall of Famer, benched 3 times. He's like, Mike, the NFL is hard. Really hard. And I told the story, Manning Passing Academy. I go every year because it's maybe 15 minutes from my house. And it's part of the kind of regimen Peyton Manning goes through with the counselors. Mm-hmm. And we got 43 to 47 starting quarterbacks in college football. And he talks to them at the end about, hey, if you guys ever need anything from me, you can call me and I'll help you as much as I can. And I'll try to, ease some of that tension with you if you feel as though things aren't going right, or maybe it's something that I can help you with. But y'all got to do me one favor. In 1998, I threw 28 interceptions as a rookie, and it's still the record. One of you dudes got to break that record. That's still great on him, big time. He don't want nothing to do with that record. You figure all the accolades and everything he's done. One thing that sticks in his craw, he threw more interceptions than any other rookie quarterback. All I can say is I don't know of another guy that was more prepared for the NFL than Peyton Manning when he came out of the University of Tennessee. And he threw 28 interceptions. And Drew was, man, people think it's easy.
So hard.
We use that term. Everybody's Al Bundy, from Married with Children. 3 touchdowns in 1 game, that sort of thing. Man, this ain't no high school football, and there's a small percentage of the world that have played college and even smaller as a pro. You talk about less than 2,000 people in the world play pro football every year. And it's tough. And that's why if it's a Teddy Bridgewater, if it's somebody that's been through that and would accept that role of when you come off the field, let me tell you what you missed. Tyler, look at Look at me in the eyes and let me tell you what you missed. And then we'll take a look at it on the little tablet and we'll go through it. I can help you in the film room. If it's him, if it's Spencer, or if it's Jake Hayner, I can help you guys do that. But I accept that role as being kind of an assistant coach, but also being insurance policy in case something happens. You look at Tyler Shuck's injury history. What happens if he goes down? You're in the same rabbit hole you were a year ago. If you don't bring in the veteran quarterback, that's why when Kellen Moore said, well, yeah, we think about it, he was quick to respond to it. Yeah, we think about it. And Drew was even more specific is, hey, somewhere down the line, you got to bring him in. You got to bring in a veteran quarterback. So you use some of that money from the Derek Carr situation to bring in, if it's a lineman, a receiver, even another pass rusher, veteran quarterback, but also use some of that money to pay off the $35 million dead money cap hit that you're going to have next year. You're still going to have cash that you can use there, and the salary cap will go up again. We've all seen these jumping numbers. And, man, one thing with the NFL, they're the king, and they got to look way down the mountaintop, for the next one to come close to him. College football is second, but it ain't close second. And nobody want to get in the ring with the NFL. So it's all about money for them, and you can see it today. So it really, to be honest with you guys, could it have worked out any better for the Saints in the retirement? No. And you
ended up lucky.
And you sort of cleared up a potentially ugly issue that you would have had. The strange thing is, his people are contacting other teams in the NFL before the injury came out to say, hey, would you be interested in trading?
Yep,
man,
they sure were.
That don't tell you he was looking to get out. I don't know what
were.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Mike, I never did hear your thoughts on Tyler Shuck. What was your were you hearing the same thing as most people? Like, were you surprised when they selected Tyler Shuck? And what are your thoughts on him as a prospect?
To be honest with you, in scouting him, I thought he would be downgraded because of his age. I hate to say it. I don't think old school. I might be an old man, because I'm in my 60s, but I don't think old school. My wife tells me that all the time. You think more like a 25-year-old than you do like a 64-year-old. But I think that still for old school general managers, a 25-year-old quarterback going on 26, I'm going to put a big red flag on that. And because of some injuries. One thing I see with him, he's a big man in the pocket. He drifts a little left, a little right, and then it's over the top. Man, that ball's coming out of that, and it's fast. He got a quick process mind. I can see it. He spots that guy, and it's out of there really, really quick. Anytime you really a first-year starter, no matter what your age, you go through that, man. What you don't like to see people in your face. No quarterback likes that.
None.
Playing quarterback. Nobody does. And you can say, well, so-and-so, if I'm Jaden Daniels, I can run like hell. So that I can run away from you. Kyler's a good athlete. He's not a runner. He's basically a bit of a drifter. But it was the first major decision by Kellen Moore. Because I really think this football team, behind the scenes, tried to trade up to the first overall pick to get Cam Ward.
Oh, they 100% did. They absolutely. I
have no doubt. They were trying to maneuver pieces for Cam Ward. And then, I heard Jeff Ireland, he came on WWL the night of the draft before, and he was top-rated player. Everybody, like myself, I had Travis Hunter. He was like, no, it's Cam Ward. Ward. And I understand where he's coming from with that. That's why I'm not surprised the Saints didn't get no primetime games. I mean, come on. No. When you get outscored 93-23 in the 3 primetime games by 70 points, NFL executives look at that, and all they worried about is peeping eyes watching, not just the start of the game, to end the game. How many people are actually watching in the third and fourth quarter?
Exactly.
We see it at WWL Radio because for some people, and the finances got involved, you know, they're not going to spend money on Netflix or Amazon or ESPN.
Yeah.
They listen to it on the radio. And that deal is, man, Mike, I love the Saints. Man, I've been a lifelong fan, 1967. I couldn't take that. I had to swing that chip off. And they're like apologizing to me. Man, you ain't got to apologize to me. It's fine. But I think that should have sent a message that should have long been there, that the NFL, who is cutting you those checks, don't think that you've made enough moves to put yourself on prime time. I'm shocked more of the Titans not getting one. Because one thing the NFL does, man, they promote stars or what they think are potential stars. I think Cam Ward's got a chance to be a potential star in this league. Now, he's going to get his butt kicked because if you think the Saints offensive line is bad, I do stuff on the Titans network. Man, the Titans offensive line is even worse than the Saints. And listen, I didn't think I lived long enough to say that, but it's true. They don't have a Kelvin Banks or a Fuaga, an Eric McCoy. Cushionberry's a good player, but he ain't Eric McCoy, know, and you solid with Ruiz. He's a solid starter. And so for me, that was surprising, but that should have sent a message loud and clear. The NFL does not think you're going to be competitive because they worried about ratings, watching. Now, the good news for Kellen Moore, and I got coaches in my family, so I can tell you this is the God's honest truth. They anal about everything. I want practices a certain time. I want games a certain time. We meet a certain time, everything else. Well, Kellen Moore ain't got to worry about that in year one. I mean, all those games are Sunday afternoon, either noon time or 3:30. You don't have to worry about rearranging the schedule. And a lot of people dislike the Chiefs and Andy Reid. My thing is, give him his credit. Look how many games the Chiefs play a Thursday night, a Sunday night, a Monday night, Christmas, Thanksgiving. You name it. Them cats, they rearrange a schedule. And Andy and the Chiefs, you might say, the refs cheat for them. All I know is come Super Bowl Sunday, they didn't get no slack. Man, the Eagles beat their behinds from one end to the other. That game, that was no cheating on that. Do you get a call because you're a great quarterback? Man, I'm old enough. I saw it in basketball. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. Did they get calls that other guys wouldn't get? Yes.
Of course.
Okay? If you're a great hitter, and you're Barry Bonds or McGuire, you don't think that umpire took a look sometimes at what could have been a strike, could have been a ball, and didn't kind of swing it their way? And people, it should be fair. Well, life ain't fair. I hate to break it to you. Life ain't fair. There is always going to be some advantages for some people over others. And so I think in this, the NFL told you, we don't think you're very good. And when you're good, we'll get you back on.
Right.
Yep.
We'll get you back on when you're good.
And I think that's the crux of to your argument, right? If this team, because we did that when the schedule came out on Wednesday, we did a schedule breakdown. Ryan had them winning 6 games. I had them winning 5 games. And I think that is both of us being our most optimistic. If everything goes well, right? But if this is a 5-win team, they potentially, that's them picking, depending on how bad other teams are in the NFL, they're picking, again, top 10, top 10, top 6. And that's potentially, you're going to be in a position, let's hypothetically say, in a very deep and a much better quarterback class coming out. So that, to me, that's the most interesting thing, is that if this team does win 5 games this season, hypothetically, and if they are picking 6 overall. Let's just say 6. I'm not saying 2, I'm not saying 3. Let's say they're picking 6. If you have a quarterback class, let's take Arch out of it. Let's say he stays in college, because I do think he stays in college.
He's going to stay. I can tell you, he's staying.
But let's say you have Garrett coming out. You have Sellers coming out. Who else am I forgetting? You have Drew Aller coming out. You have a very
Klubnik,
deep,
Clemson.
Klubnik, who I like a lot, coming out. And there's someone who falls to the Saints at 5, at 6. That to me is going to be the most fascinating thing. Of, let's say Tyler Shuck goes out there and he has a decent year for a rookie. Not great, not bad, decent. That to me was going to be one of the most fascinating things, I feel, if the season breaks out that way and they're sitting there 5 overall, 6 overall, and a perceived much better quarterback prospect falls to their laps.
Yeah, I think the keys in year 1 for Kellen Moore is this. Last year's top 2 picks. I know enough about the first one. Fuaga can play. I mean, yes. I don't know if he lines up at left tackle or right tackle, but I do know one thing, that dude can play. And he can play at a high level.
He's a dog.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, I thought, got off to a real difficult start in the NFL. I thought he got better as the season went along. What I'd like to see them do with some of the money, so I'll throw a third one in there, is re-sign long-term Alontae Taylor. Because if I look at the team, who I want to make sure is on this team long-term, who is young, it's Alontae Taylor today. So I think it's the looking ground. If I've hit with Fuaga, which I think that's a given.
Yes.
If you hit with Kool-Aid, Alontae getting him signed long-term, and then my first 2 picks this year. If I found my left tackle for the next 10 years, and maybe I find my quarterback for the next 10 years, then I'm in a spot where I don't have to pick desperate. And I think sometimes that happens in this league. And you get up, everybody's got a different opinion on the development of young quarterbacks. Not everybody's going to be C.J. Stroud.
Nope.
I say this daily on WWL. Man, I can remember as a kid, Greg Cook came out of Cincinnati. He was the AFL Rookie of the Year. I think he finished second for MVP. He hurts his shoulder, and he was never the same after the first year. But to see what Cook did, and people comparing him to Joe Namath at that point in time. Wow. And I'm like, whoa, that's really something. But I think throughout the last 20 years, how many guys stepped off the college campus and said, hey, I'm the man. Give me the ball. Hey, this ain't that difficult. C.J. Stroud did it 2 years ago on a bad team. I mean, look where he got picked. Had the Texans not won the final game of the year, they would have picked first instead of second. I still think they would have picked Stroud because I'm a big believer in the fact that the owner of the Panthers said, I want Bryce Young on this team. Yep, I want him here. And so that's who I want to pick. And Frank Wright, it's a team decision. Come on. You ain't going to tell no multi-billionaire owner he's wrong. You're going to be unemployed real quick at that point. And what Jaden did a year ago, I think you don't see that often in the NFL.
No, man.
Rare.
But I think sometimes in people's minds, they think that it's like that for everyone.
Right.
It clouds their judgment of rookie quarterback.
So I think you're going to see the ups and downs. I think in some games, Tyler Shuck's going to look really good. And in other games, he'll probably have a 4-interception game. And it's like, oh, man, we're playing the wrong guy. No, you got to work your way through. You got to navigate through the difficult times with a young quarterback. And I think Cam Ward will be the same way, to be honest.
Yep.
I think Cam is going to have those difficulties with the Titans, and he's going to be running for his life. They're not going to protect him well at Tennessee because the owner thought the front office told me Will Levis is the guy. Y'all told me when we picked him, Will's our quarterback for the future. What happened? And we're like, well, it didn't work out. Okay. Then general manager, you're the one who told me you fired. Brought in a new GM.
Yep.
And so now the head coach is, man, they fired the GM that hired me. Where am I going next? So you got a lot on the line. And that's why I say this stuff about tanking. The tanking's not on your record. It's on Kellen Moore's. Mm-hmm. And no coach wants to be put in that spot. You want to try to win as much as you can. I do think the philosophy with Kevin is going to be a little bit different than Dennis Allen is. I'm willing to play the young players to see what I have on this roster. And I don't mind tinkering a little bit with players in maybe a little different spots. The guy who's got 2 buckets of water now today, and we'll have it in September, November, December, Alvin Kamara. He don't have 1 bucket of water he's covered. Man, he's got 2 that he's got in his hand. If you look at how Kellen Moore has used running backs, okay, not only as a workhorse runner, but also as the receiver coming out of the backfield. That's what makes the backup halfback position a vital one for this team. You cannot give the football rushing to Alvin Kamara 22 times a game. He's just going to wear down doing that. Even the Ravens don't do that with Derrick Henry. And look the way Derrick's pieced together. So I think that the one thing you'll see different is Kellen Moore is going to be more willing to play the younger players and say, okay, he's going to make mistakes, but you know what? He don't get no experience watching. You got to play him. And I think Dennis Allen may have had that thought in year 1, but then he started feeling the heat of, I'm not going to be here. I got to play the older guy. And in saying that, I really felt last year, the left guard position, they basically gave that baton to Saul DeVere, and he dropped it. As soon as he got hurt the first week of training camp, he dropped it. And so now you got veterans that they maybe started some games, but you didn't look at them as starters.
Right.
And you don't want them starting 16 games a season. Now, if it's a 3 or 4 game stretch where they can fill in, that's fine. I complain about this all the time. Coaches say it, and I get it why they say it in the locker room. Next man up. My thing is, that is the biggest false statement coaches ever say. Because now you got fans saying it, press write it, everything else. There is no such thing as next man up. The next man, tell me who he is. Then I can tell you if he can fill that bill. The Saints didn't have that next man. Now, the Eagles, they got depth along the offensive line.
There it is.
So if they get a starter hurt, they'll kind of swing a little bit and put a guy in. And doesn't it sort of look the same? But when the Saints lose one, man, this is my Everest drop off. And the running back position and wide receiver position, look what happened late last year, especially in Green Bay. Man, I did pregame shows in Green Bay, and we're like, man, we had to look up in Wikipedia who the Saints receivers were. We had no clue. And these are guys that cover the NFL every day. And, they weren't familiar with the Saints receivers. So
Poor
I just don't want them to fall down that same rabbit hole that they fell down last year with a lack of depth. Give your young coach an opportunity. That's all I ask for. Give an opportunity.
I got one more for Mike. You have anything else for Mike?
No, go ahead.
The one thing I have for you, Mike, is to that point. It's just so, and I get it. The defense needed a lot of juice, and they went so defensive heavy after they drafted Banks and Shuck. But it was so weird to Wolf and I speaking to the lack of depth of wide receiver, lack of depth of running back, that for a draft class that was so heavy at tight end, so heavy running backs, and it wasn't like a stud wide receiver draft class, but there was still a lot of talent that was just ignored until like round 6 and round 7. And, maybe they'll add a Keenan Allen or whoever, someone in free agency, but to not add a young piece besides like Devin Neal and, the tight end that they added. I don't know. The team roster building just felt a little weird because it feels very like, honestly, the roster, at least offensively, like the weapons, right? It feels very similar to last year, except they have like Brandon Cooks and they got Devin Neal.
Yeah, I think in talking to someone who I think would know, they told me twice they were going to pick a receiver, and he gets picked a couple.
Yeah, it was Isaac. It was the Isaac Tesla. The Detroit traded up.
University of Arkansas was one of them.
Yep.
One of the things they didn't go down that same road was let's trade extra draft picks because we need players more than one position. Let's keep our picks. And that's different from what we've seen in the past. Because normally, I know, especially with Coach Payton was there, man, I want a toy. Man, I can tell you all stories. Man, we would get it like before round 1, and, we'd get a text or somebody would say, oh, man, Coach Payton is in here. He wants a toy. And I knew what that meant. He wants a wide receiver.
He wants me for real.
That's my coach.
Hey, that's it. I want a toy. He's just like a big kid with it. And, I think they ended up with people that had better all been go get the toy. But I think this year was different.
Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Your child has so much potential, but your local schools may not be right for them. Check out K-12. K-12 powered schools are accredited tuition-free online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. This is not your typical homeschooling. With state-certified teachers specially trained to teach online, your child will learn at their speed, at home, with innovative, engaging technology. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.
From this standpoint, they kept the picks feeling they had so many holes on the roster. Is it worth what we would do to trade up and maybe we lose a player that we could have picked in round 5 or 6 that could have helped us somewhere as a role player? I'm not talking about starters, but as a role player. Guys, that's the difference in this draft than in the prior ones. Even with Coach Payton until 2017. You look at that 2017 draft, they had a bunch of accumulated picks in the early rounds, a bunch. And they hit. It was bang. They hit on all of that. Now, nothing done come close since. I mean, nothing's come close since. But I do think that's the one philosophy change. So that's not a Jeff Ireland decision. That's a Kellen Moore kind of working with Mickey Loomis to say, Mickey, let's not do this. Let's keep the picks. And, I think I heard the story about what the Eagles did in 2018. They had a trade on the board in the 7th round that could have netted them a 6th round pick and a 7th the following year. But you know what? And I give him full credit. Man, Howie Rosenblum, he is unbelievable what Howie has done. Jeff Stoutland said, you know what? I want to pick a guy who never played football in his life. And they picked a rugby player in Jordan Mailata. And, okay, just give me time with him, and I'll figure it out, and he'll figure it out. But Howie was going to deal that pick because one thing with Howie, man, if I was playing cards with him, I wouldn't want to because I played cards a long time in my life living on the bayou here. Man, you get cheated by some of the best people around. And that's not a knock. That's just how they play. They trying to cheat you out of your money. And the one thing with Howie that I think he's not only looking to make a deal with you, he's looking to make a deal that I'm going to win this deal. Okay?
Yo, we're well aware, Mike. And Mickey Loomis is too.
And so now, I have a couple buddies of mine that are now GMs. They were scouts. And so I knew when they were regional scouts and they were telling me, man, when I get a phone call and I see that area code from Philadelphia, I ain't picking it up.
Can you pass that message on to Mickey? Like, let him know. Like, put the phone down. Block it. Block it.
I don't want to.
Howie, the weather's beautiful here, Howie. We can go play golf, in June. But, man, look, I ain't doing no deal with you. Howie really had a very good deal in place, but he was talked out of it by the coaching staff. And Jeff Stoutland was, if we don't pick him, somebody else will, because he was working out now for a bunch of guys.
Right.
So his guy who never played one down of American football, never went to college. He was a rugby player.
Right.
He took a chance on him. Wow. And I think Kellen's heard that story so many times that he was, Mickey, let's keep these picks. And you saw a little bit of philosophical change.
It was a big one.
The picks were much more important. Okay, you're not one player away. You're not two players away. You're not three players away. Man, I worked with Buddy Diliberta for so many years. Man, Buddy D was something. And he got banned from the plane for saying one thing that really got him tossed. Matter of fact, Fred Williams, who was John Meekum, the owner of that time's bodyguard and kind of security guy, he told him, Buddy, you banned from the plane for 10 years after life even. And Buddy's like, 10 years after life? What'd that mean? He said, in case you the next Lazarus, you offer him. Now, time's passed, so Buddy could be back on the plane if he was Lazarus. But Buddy wrote, because the then GM, Dick Gordon, who was a former astronaut, they give him the job as GM in the early 70s. Because, no, I ain't kidding you guys, because he could get Meekum into all these parties. Now, I grew up, man, astronauts back then, they were like, movie stars.
Rock stars, yeah.
And so, man, Gordon could get Meekum into all these parties and going to the White House and all this other stuff. And he gave a speech one time at the Touchdown Club in New Orleans that we 3 players away from going to the Super Bowl. And so Buddy wrote it. They 3 players away from going to the Super Bowl. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit.
Shit, guys. Out of there for life and plus. That was it. You out
of there.
And somebody was, man, I didn't think that would be the thing that get me tossed. I thought it'd be something I said bad about the team. And he said, in essence, I did, kind of rub the team's nose in the dirt a little bit. Man, I said a lot worse. And that's what got me tossed. And so that was it. He was like that. He said, Mike, I swear to you, that's what happened. But I do think every team sort of thinks they're close. Yeah. And thinks fans, writers, media, y'all don't know nothing about this. Y'all don't know nothing about this. And some people know a little bit more than others. The one thing I give every front office, head coach, they really believe they close every year. Yeah. My thing is, define me what you call close.
Close.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Define me what you call close. And I'll tell this story. This is 1988. And the Saints win. They had the first winning season ever.
Yep.
Okay, they started in 1967. And they didn't have a winning season until 1987. You think I done seen some bad football in my life? And some bad draft picks? Man, in the first 10 years of the Saints, they had a draft pick in the top 10 that they kept or they traded every year and still never had a winning record. Never. And then I had to wait 11 more years before I saw him win, have a winning season, and get into the playoffs. So this is
This is like nothing.
Post 1988 draft class. So everybody thought Mr. Finks would be the first one to do the TV because I was doing this for WGNO 26. And but Mr. Finks, he was chronically late. He's like the good-looking gal that comes to the ball. I mean, always chronically late, Mr. Finks. And but so Jim Moore comes in there, talks for a few minutes. He does his segment. Moore is out of there. So then they took me. I do my segment. I go to leave, and when I see him, he's sitting, right by the no smoking sign. Okay, and boy, he's got that gonorrhea in his mouth and smoking that cigarette and that. He's like, son, come here. I'm like, oh, okay. So what do you do for a living? I said, I'm an engineer. He just shakes his head. He says, well, that answers one question I was going to ask for you. But he says, listen, you do a good job. He said, you know this game really well. He said, it's just how far you want to pull this if you want to do it. He said, I hired the Marasco brothers. And the Marasco brothers were writing for Pro Football Weekly back then. They were the scouts, one of the first ones to put out this draft stuff. He said, I hired him in Chicago. So I knew what he was trying to tell me without telling me. I said, oh, Mr. Finks. He's like, I don't even want to know how much you make. He said, and if you're making as much as me, then I can't hire you as a scout. So he's like, I'm going to give you 2 deals of advice. This is a people business, and it will always be a people's business. And he said, no matter if you engineering, if you work for a bank, if you're a doctor, it's always a people business. And you got to serve your community or whatever you do right by picking the right people. And he said, I might sound like an old man with this, but I'm looking for heart and football smarts. I don't care if he can't split the atom or he can take a court case and bring it, anything like that. I want a football smart guy. I want a guy who's tenacious and will give me everything he's got. It's a great teammate. And I don't have to bail his ass out of jail, every 6 months. He said, it is something to always remember about when you evaluate players. Fall in love with the football player. Do not fall in love with the athlete. He said, I see all this stuff on ESPN now. How high can you jump? How much weight can you lift? What's your wingspan? What's your 40-yard dash speed? He said, you know what? Do I care about some of it? Yes, a little bit. I'm looking for? I'm looking for the football player, because if I miss on the football player, that football player is going to beat me one day. He's going to beat me one day out on the field. And then the second thing, man, he takes that long puff and just up in the air with that smoke. And he was like, the other thing to tell you, kid, they got a lot of people here that think they know about football. And I'm going to clean it up. He's like, they don't know nothing about what I got to go through each and every day. And I love confrontation. And I was like, confrontation? He said, yeah, and I'm talking about no physical fight. I love a mental fight. Argue with an agent on money. That's when they didn't have the kind of slotting that it is today. Yep. And the second round pick and the third round pick, they'd hold out forever. Fink was trying to cheap them. And then, I didn't even realize it at the time until Bobby called me. He said, Mike, I'm not playing. They don't want to pay me. The most they offer me is $850,000. And the average starting quarterback is getting $1 million. And Mr. Finks tells Bobby, I bought a house in Minnesota when I was there for $20,000. And, in typical Layberry was, well, don't complain to me if they cheated you out of money. Okay, I get it. You could buy a brick house for 20 grand back then, but you got to understand, I just want market value. So, the one thing I give Abear, he had some good lawyers, and the NFLPA did. They took this to court, and they won free agency for the NFL because of Bobby J. And Judge Jody basically signs him over a check, without any sort of federal implications to it, for $8.5 million. That could only happen to a guy from on the bayou. that you go to court looking for your $1 million and you walk out with $8.5 million.
$8.5 million
Into the deal. But it's so funny. I think back at what Jim says back in '88 and how it applies even today about, man, there is something about people business. You guys are in the people business. I'm in the people business now, but how you treat people, how you work with others, how much you put into this, and it's your heart and soul into it. Now, some guys may get away with not having to do that, but they like 1% of the world to do that and can still play. And I think it still applies today. And I think that's the thing missing in scouting today. And that sometimes that's the miss. You don't miss on the talent. You miss on the player and how he's going to interact, how he's going to get himself involved with teammates, what he does. And then he gave me that last puff and he said, kid, the Greeks settled this years ago. I said, Greeks? He said, yeah, Greeks. You got a chance to pick a really talented big man or a really talented smaller guy, you pick the big man. He said, always remember that. And I think about that. Today's game, I look at offensive tackles, and I'm not talking about centers and guards now. And Mulata is sort of the out of the realm guy because of his background. And the Saints did get Teron Armstead in round 3, and again, small college player, but man, he second best offensive lineman I think that's ever played on this team, other than Willie. I mean, talent wise, that was no question. Yeah. Look at the top tackles in this league: Christian Wirfs, Trent Williams, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, Lane Johnson. Christian Darrison, he got hurt last year with the Vikings, but he was having a great year.
Yep.
The guy that the Saints will see in week 1, Paris Johnson Jr. Really, really am impressed with him. All those guys are first-round picks.
Yep.
And, Jim, I think back, he basically told me that. That's why I picked these guys and the big men, because he said, when you get down to rounds 2, 3, and 4, yeah, occasionally you might find one. But really, you find them in the first round. You find that tackle, that big offensive tackle. And so I think for future for the Saints, which could really work out is to move Fuaga back to right tackle and put Kelvin Banks Jr. on the left side, and you got your bookend tackles now 10, 11, 12 years. Then you can fill in the other spots. But everybody loves the receivers and the tight ends, and we need a DB, and we still do. There ain't no question. This team needs another cornerback really, really bad. But when you building, he made a good point about those are the first blocks you put in, unless you can get a great quarterback. Now, like you said, I hate to say it because, I got accused of trading Fran Tarkington once, but I brought him back. I was in Minnesota. I traded him to the Giants, but then I brought him back. I did draft Jim McMahon when a lot of people told me, Jim, you want to know about his background? He went to BYU, but he was not, he was a crazy dude. And he was like, I just know his intangibles are going to win for us. I know he's going to win for us. And yet, that's still in place now. You look how the Eagles have built offensive, defensive line. And you look at those guys. And they took a chance on Jalen Carter, because Jalen had some things away from the field, but they felt comfortable that they could work through that. You saw from midseason on, the best interior lineman in pro football was Jalen Carter. Chris Jones don't play the run well. Okay, he loved to rush the quarterback.
He does.
Jalen Carter can play the run and rush the quarterback. And I think about the Rams game, okay? The Rams got him by the teriyaki at the end, okay? They got him on the ropes. Who makes 2 back-to-back plays and finishes it? Jalen Carter. And he's gassed Because, Stafford's throwing the ball all over the field.
All over.
Dillon, I'm not saying the stick hit E, but it was like right before. We all been in that spot. Man, it's right there by the E. And he made 2 big plays, ended it for him. In the toughest game they play, basically from midseason on. I do think that has to always pop in my mind if once I get the quarterback, I know what other pieces I need to get on that team. And it would be big men up front. And they say, well, it's the Eagles' way. No, it's not. I saw USC do this in the 2000s. They had Matt Leinart, and they had Reggie, and they had Lindell White, and they had Mike Williams. I saw their offensive and defensive lines. From 2003 to 2008, they had a grand total of 23 offensive, defensive linemen selected in the draft.
Shout out Charles Brown.
They did at Alabama. Okay, it wasn't all these star quarterbacks. He won. Front 7 defensively, offensive line. What has Georgia done? Kirby Smart took the same blueprint. I'm doing that at Georgia. How Ohio State wins the national championship this year? Okay, I can name you about 14 quarterbacks better than Will Howard that played in college football. They won up front. They won up front. They beat you up front.
What's been, I'll leave it this thought. What's been very interesting to me over the years, and Ryan's put up this data, is that the number of picks that the Saints and the Eagles have both invested in the offensive and the defensive line have been about like the same number, like in terms of like high first round, or not high, but like first round picks. But in terms of the players working out for the teams have been a stark difference.
Yes.
And like that goes to team building, that goes to scouting, that's a whole other conversation.
People business.
Yep.
People business. And so when I go to the LSU games, first thing I do is when I make the corner, there's a list, it's typed out of NFL scouts that are there. Sometimes they give you the name, sometimes they don't. Every time I go to an LSU game, guess who's got 2 scouts there? The Philadelphia
Eagles.
They got 22 people in their scouting department. Now, you might say that's excessive. My thing is, you know what's excessive? If you got 22 people there and you're a 500 team. Look what the Eagles have done. Okay? They've been to the Super Bowl a couple times, won one, got to the playoffs in a crazy year, 2 years ago, where they started out great and then everything fell apart. But when you have the right people in place to give you the right information, and this is as a guy that did this for so long and still do, when I talk to an assistant coach or a head coach or a trainer, man, don't tell me nothing about their talent. I can see their talent. I got a 6-year-old little granddaughter. She can tell me, Pop, that guy plays good, huh? Yeah. You know what I want to know from them? I want to know his character. I want to know how hard a worker he is, how smart he is football-wise, how he gets along with his teammates, how tough he is. Does he play through injuries? Because, listen, that's part of this world that you're going to have to play through some aches and pains that you have. That, to me, is so important today. And I think that's what the Eagles and Howie have done better than anybody. And I think the number 2 team is Kansas City. Everybody talks about Mahomes and all. Yeah, and that is true. He is something special. But look their defense. Mm-hmm. They basically have hit on pick after pick after pick. And here's the crazy thing. Too. As soon as they leave and go somewhere else, they ain't no good. They're not very good anymore. I think evaluation and people understanding, because now you got people from different backgrounds, how they grew up and everything else. And you also have to take that into consideration. My good friend Carly McCord, God bless her, before she died, Carly was doing this for the Cleveland Browns. She had come up with an aptitude test to give to athletes that she felt was more up to date, not giving them a test and saying which side of the plate is, is the fork for the salad dressing, for the dressing fork. For some people, what you asking me that? I mean, I got no clue about all that.
Right.
She had come up with an aptitude test. So when they picked Johnny Manziel, she told me, Mike, I have never had a guy take a test and score so low in my life. And she said, I know he's not dumb, but she said, there's a streak in him that doesn't understand about how important this game is. And she said, you know what he really told me? It's all about me. It ain't about the other dudes. It's about me. Johnny was
which is funny because
college player. We got into the pros
because everything he's talked about post his career and him healing and everything like matches exactly what that test would indicate, like almost identically. Mike, it has been an honor, a pleasure you coming on. Hopefully we can make this happen again. Your stories are tremendous. I know our listeners and watchers appreciate it. We love it. I might have to go in and fix the audio if there's the echo, and we might get it re-uploaded for our YouTube listeners and for the audio. But Mike, it's Mike D, a pleasure. Make sure you catch him on WWL in the Louisiana, New Orleans area. Thank you so much for coming on, Mike.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all doing a great job. And real soon, when I retire, maybe y'all can take over the operation, so to speak.
Let's go.
All right. Appreciate it. With that, we'll be back next week. With that, we are out.
Peace.
Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Your child has so much potential, but your local schools may not be right for them. Check out K-12. K-12 powered schools are accredited tuition-free online public schools for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. This is not your typical homeschooling. With state-certified teachers specially trained to teach online, your child will learn at their speed, at home, with innovative, engaging technology. Join the more than 3 million families who have chosen K-12. Go to k12.com/podcast today to learn more. That's k12.com/podcast.